Runway ML just got destroyed by Google's new AI, and people are calling it the biggest failure in AI history. But what happened? Well, we decided to test it ourselves. So we asked both Runway AI and Google's new Veo3 to create a 60-second video from this exact prompt. And we didn't stop them. No limits, no restrictions. Just let them do whatever they wanted. And after 60 seconds, this was the result from Runway ML. Some text-to-video AI models had a baby and somehow made a couch out of Captain America's shield. We've definitely seen better. And now let's compare it to Google's new Veo3. You already know we had to go ham with this one. So we decided to make the same prompt even harder by adding a few more details like an abandoned amusement park at night and a terrifying atmosphere. And then we hit generate. Now 60 seconds later, we have a completely different video. It's clear that there is an obvious difference between the two. The AI generated by Google is much more coherent and realistic, whereas Runway looks like it's trying to imitate something but failed miserably. It's almost painful to look at. This seems like a huge failure for Runway ML, right? But wait, there's more. The truth is that Google's Veo3 model has not been released yet, but is currently in research paper form only. However, we managed to get our hands on it and play around with it a little bit before it goes live. And this brings us to the next problem. You see, the entire internet is currently talking about how amazing Google's new Veo3 is, saying things like this will destroy Runway, and that it's the next big step for AI video. But right now, that's just not true. Right now, Google's Veo3 is simply not as good as Runway. For example, we tested it on a simpler prompt, like a cat wearing sunglasses dances in the street, and it took over 4 minutes to generate a 12-second clip. That's way too long. Plus, the quality wasn't any good either. It was blurry, pixelated, and overall pretty ugly. Even though it was running on a high-end GPU, this still took way too long. But then we remembered that Google's Veo3 is not meant to be used as a consumer product like Runway or Stable Video Diffusion. Instead, it's mainly being talked about for its research capabilities and its potential for the future. In fact, Google itself says nothing about making it available for the public, which means that the majority of the people talking about this are doing so prematurely. They're basically just talking about a research tool that might have some real-world applications in the future. In other words, people are getting excited about a research project that isn't finished yet. But this raises the question, why are they talking about it now? Well, that's because Google hasn't released it yet. So this is how they get people excited about it before anyone else does. But we actually have some good news here. You see, Google also released a paper about their image generator called Veo3 back in April. But they actually released the model itself in May. So it is possible that they will do the same with Veo3. They released the research paper to get people talking about it and then actually release the model a few weeks or months later. So if that happens, then all of these people who are saying that Runway is dead right now would be proven wrong. But even if that doesn't happen, it's still too early to say anything definitive. Plus, Runway has already responded to this news by saying that they're actually quite happy about it because Google is essentially validating everything they've been doing so far. And they also said that they're going to come back stronger than ever. We don't know exactly what that means, but one thing is for sure, they're not going anywhere. In fact, they have a secret weapon up their sleeve that Google doesn't have: community. Even though Google is a massive company with a lot of resources, Runway is growing at a faster rate because they're more agile and open to the public. For example, Runway has announced their brand new text-to-video V2 just yesterday, and it has already been used by millions of people. In contrast, Google's new model has not been released yet, and we don't know when it will be. So it's really hard to say who will come out on top here, and that's why we're going to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Yes, Google's new AI is impressive, but it's not the end of the world. In fact, it's quite similar to other techniques that came out before it. For example, this one from Meta called Make a Video was published in April, and it's actually quite similar to Google's recent work. Both of these techniques use a method called frame interpolation, which means that they start with a rough hand-drawn animation and then fill in the rest of the frames using AI. The difference here is that Google's technique is a little bit better. However, it's still not perfect, and there are some obvious limitations. For example, if you look closely, you can see some flickering and ghosting artifacts. These are basically visual errors caused by the AI trying to fill in the missing frames. Additionally, the video quality isn't very good either. It's pretty blurry and pixelated, and overall not very realistic. This is clearly visible when you compare it to Runway's latest version called Stable Video Diffusion. The difference is pretty significant. It's much smoother, higher resolution, and more realistic. This is because Runway uses a different method called motion diffusion, which is specifically designed to generate high-quality smooth videos. Overall, Runway's AI is still better than Google's new model when it comes to video quality, smoothness, and resolution. But what about controllability? This is one area where Google shines. Their new model is much more controllable than Runway's. This means that you can give it a prompt and then easily modify the generated video to match your vision. On the other hand, Runway's model is more difficult to control and often generates results that are out of your desired range. In other words, Google's new model is more predictable and easier to work with, whereas Runway's model is more creative and harder to control. So it really depends on what you want to use it for. If you want to generate high-quality videos, then Runway is still the better option. But if you need more controllability, then Google's new model might be more suitable. So yes, Google's new AI is quite impressive, but it's not perfect and it's not as good as Runway in every single way. Also, it's not the first time that Google has published a research paper about something that is unavailable yet. They did the same thing with their language model called Lambda and then released it as Bard. So it's possible that they will do the same with Veo3. As we've seen, they're actively working on improving their AI and we should expect some major updates soon. This means that it's still too early to declare a winner and we'll have to wait until the competition heats up again. Ultimately, it's great news for all of us because it means that progress is being made and AI is becoming more advanced every day. We will definitely keep you updated on all the latest developments, so make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.